Something big is happening in the Pacific, or let's be precise, the Pacific Ring of Fire. We just had a magnitude 7.3. China says it's 7.5. The USGS first had it at 7.2 and then quickly after upgraded it, which is rare. They usually downgrade it to 7.3. We're dealing with a population of roughly 320,000 people spread across 80 islands, largest city 50,000 people. We're talking about Vanuatu, and we've talked about this quite a bit with larger earthquakes. So it just happened. What's going on? I said something just happened in the Pacific, and it is not small. It's 7.3 near Vanuatu, and this region is one of the most dangerous seismic zones on Earth right now. That's why this is so significant that we talk about this, because this is not random. I want to make this clear as well. This is pressure that is being released along a major subduction zone. The Pacific Ring of Fire, that is basically a ring, a horseshoe ring of subduction zones. These are the dangerous ones that can create the big mega thrust earthquakes with tsunamis, with even volcanoes that can be triggered, and we have all the volcanoes along the Pacific Ring of Fire. So what's happening beneath here at the epicenter, beneath the ocean, matters a lot more than, for example, how many people live in the area. And let me explain this clearly. Vanuatu sits directly on the new Hebrides subduction zone. So this is where the Australian tectonic plate is being forced down beneath the Pacific plate. And that movement, it doesn't happen smoothly, unfortunately. It locks, it builds pressure, and then suddenly it slips. And that's what just happened. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. And here is why this matters. It's important. This type of plate boundary is capable of producing some of the most powerful earthquakes and tsunamis on Earth. So we could be in foreshock territory. We cannot rule that out. We've seen it in Kamchatka last year, megathrust earthquake, 8.8. We were seeing magnitude 7+ earthquakes. So we're not out of the woods here yet. We have to wait and see what this is going to develop into. We're talking about mega thrust behavior. I have to make that clear. So now listen carefully again, because here's where it gets really serious. But before it does, guys, please leave this video a like, hype it, share it with your friends. It helps my channel and it doesn't cost you anything. So thank you. This region doesn't just produce earthquakes. This region produces earthquake cluster swarms, sequences, and chains of events. So in fact, Vanuatu, we know it sees hundreds of earthquakes every day, averaging nearly one every couple of days in the region. But when a magnitude 7.3 hits, the real question is not what just happened. It is what comes next. And the last weeks have been interesting, to say the least, in that area. I have divided this in two phases. The background activation that we can say happened in mid-February. We have February 13th and 14th, 2026. We have a magnitude 6.3, also significant in northern Vanuatu. Additional events in the same zone, other earthquakes. Deep, smaller events were also recorded roughly at 200 miles of depth. So the system, that's my interpretation, has already been active weeks before today. The phase 2, in my opinion, I call this the buildup begins. That is March 20th. It's an important day. But first, March 18th, we already had a magnitude 5.0 at a depth of 81 kilometers. That's roughly 70 miles. And then the important day, March 20th, a magnitude 6.1 shallow, roughly 7 miles, 10 kilometers. It was strongly felt by the population. And then we saw multiple quakes at the same day. So what is my interpretation? I think that was a shallow plate boundary activation at that subduction zone. But then phase 3, the regional escalation, March 22nd to March 24th. We had the Tonga cluster on March 22nd. I have reported about this. Magnitude 6.2, magnitude 6.3, magnitude 5.6, and a sequence, right? Very shallow, roughly 7 miles, 10 kilometers. And then a major event, March 24th, we had a magnitude 7.6 in Tonga. Very, very deep at a depth of roughly 200 miles, 230 kilometers. So that means subduction zone. We're dealing with a deep slab stress release that begins at a regional scale. But then phase 4, I call this today, March 30th. The Vanuatu main event, magnitude 7.3 or 7.5, 7 point something. In that event, the depth, 87 kilometers, roughly 70 miles, maybe a little bit deeper. We still wait for the final verdict. So my interpretation here is that we have an intermediate depth slab rupture. This is a significant size of earthquake. So this is not random. It's a structured pattern. If we now add all these phases together, we started with shallow, shallow, very deep, and now intermediate depth. So this is a multi-layer activation. But what is the key mechanism, right? The subduction slab is under stress at multiple depths. And now you might wonder, I mentioned Tonga and Vanuatu, and now the question arises, is this connected? Because the distance is roughly 700 miles apart, 1,000 kilometers, but it's the same tectonic system, Pacific plate, Australian plate interaction. So what is connecting them? It's the same subducting slab system. We have different segments, right? So what is not happening right now is that it's not a rupture that is moving north-south. It's not a domino earthquake chain. It's not. This pattern has a name. We can call this an advanced concept because what you're seeing resembles a distributed slab stress release. This is how we can call this. That means the energy is released across multiple depths, multiple segments, and not a single locked fault breaking. And now I said, this area can produce big megathrust earthquakes, the big one. This is what we're all afraid of. This can send tsunamis all across the Pacific, can reach West Coast, Canada, US, everything, Hawaii, right? So, let's stay scientifically correct. Let's calm down. Let's take a deep breath, okay? Yes, the risk is elevated, but it's not predictive. I know this is not a satisfying answer, but that's what it is. We know the system is clearly active. We've seen multiple magnitude 6 plus and magnitude 7 plus. I mean, Tonga, sorry guys, 7.6, that is high, right? But we do not have a direct megathrust signal yet. But again, yet, this can change because this really looks active, right? So, tsunami, we have to talk about this. The March 20 events, they're more relevant. Tonga, 7.6 deep, no tsunami because it was so deep. Vanuatu, I think it's deep, same situation. I don't think we need to worry about a big tsunami. We're also not looking at a single foreshock sequence or like a migrating rupture. We are looking at this highly active subduction system that is releasing stress at multiple depths across the southwestern Pacific. We have a real cluster here over a time frame of roughly 3 weeks, right? So the big question is, when a big earthquake like this hits, what comes next? We can await 3 things because large earthquakes in subduction zones can do. Number 1, They can trigger aftershock cascades, sometimes for days or weeks. Number 2, they can transfer stress along a fault, meaning nearby segments are now closer to breaking maybe. And number 3, if the sea floor moved enough, yes, they can generate a tsunami, but they're deep right now. I don't think it's too much of a risk, right? Not every earthquake causes a tsunami. That really depends on how the seafloor was moved by this. So historically, I have to say, but historically, events in this region, in this exact region, have triggered tsunami warnings across the whole Pacific. And when the warnings are later canceled, the initial alert tells you everything about the potential energy that was involved. This is a vertical displacement zone. That's the most dangerous kind there is. And here's something that most people don't know. When this plate boundary slips, it can lift or drop entire sections off the ocean floor. Like when you're sitting in your bathtub, you lift up your leg and you let it fall down. That can create the tsunami, right? That's how they are born. And in that context, we have to talk history because this region has a track record. 7.3 hit here in 2024, causing real damage and loss of people. And we have a 7.3 now again. If we go further back, this area has produced earthquakes up to magnitude 8.1 on record. That's not small. That's major plate boundary energy. So when we're seeing a 7.3 today, we're looking at this loaded active system that is capable of more. And here's another layer. This subduction zone is also tied to volcanic activity across Vanuatu. Because if one plate subducts, it sinks and then it melts and it feeds magma into the volcanic area, into the volcanic arc that sits above. So this isn't just an earthquake zone. Again, like the Pacific Ring of Fire, this is a full tectonic system under constant stress. So you might ask, is the whole Pacific Ring of Fire on fire right now? Because we're seeing multiple large earthquakes across the Pacific margins. Tonga, Vanuatu, and I've reported South Pacific sub and Arctic zones. We have the Shetland Islands. There was a big one recently. We have ongoing activity in places like Japan, which is quite active, Indonesia, Alaska. So that feels like something big is building. But are these earthquake activities connected? The short answer is it's not a single chain reaction, like no, but yes, they have a shared tectonic driver. Same engine, different faults. All of these areas sit around the Pacific plate, right? The largest, most active plate on Earth, subducting beneath other plates, Tonga, Vanuatu, Japan, grinding past plates, San Andreas system, Cascadia subduction zone, right? Breaking into microplates in complex zones. So earthquakes here happen independently, but within the same system. So stress is always being released somewhere. This is the key. The Ring of Fire produces 75% of the world's earthquakes. Large quakes, magnitude 6+ happen every week globally. So when you see a cluster, it is often normal global activity appearing synchronized, not a global trigger, not triggered by anything from above or something. It's the plates themselves. But the clustering that we see is real. We see temporal clusters, several large earthquakes within days, regional activation, Tonga, Vanuatu area. This can happen because the plates are moving continuously. They're like swimming around there. So the stress redistributes locally and one event can slightly nudge nearby systems, right? Not dominoes, but not random either. So that does not mean a global mega earthquake is coming. This does not mean all faults are linked together, and it does not mean escalation is guaranteed. So let's not panic. So the Pacific is not reacting, it's constantly moving, and right now we're seeing multiple parts of that system releasing energy at the same time. Now here's what I want you to watch over the next few hours. And of course, I'm watching this for you. Are we going to see the aftershocks building up in size? Is there movement along nearby segments? And most importantly, are there tsunami alerts or unusual sea level changes? Because if this rupture expanded, the story is not over. This region has done it before and it can escalate quickly. So I'll keep tracking this. Stay alert, guys. Stay safe. If you want to learn more about the Tonga earthquake, the video is here. But also, hey, check out the other video here. Highly, highly interesting. I see you in a second. If you want to fill me up with coffee, link is in the description. Thank you so much for your supers, for clicking the join button to become a supportive member. I see you. Bye.